When she poured me that glass of wine, I realized this night wasn't going to feel like family anymore. I never thought I'd notice the way someone held a glass of wine until that night. She tilted it with this slow, deliberate grace, the kind you don't see in people my age. The deep red caught the lamplight, rippling against the glass before she finally handed it to me. Her fingers brushed mine just long enough to make me forget what I was about to say. "Careful," she murmured, a small smile tugging at her lips. "It's stronger than you think." My aunt, or at least that's what everyone else called her. She wasn't my blood. She was my mom's best friend from college, someone who'd been around my whole life in fragments, holidays, birthdays, those passing visits when I was younger. But now I was 23, not a kid anymore, and this was the first time I saw her without the noise of family or gatherings. Just her, in her house, with music low in the background and the smell of cinnamon candles flickering in the corner. She wore a loose cardigan, the kind that slipped a little off her shoulder when she leaned forward. I try not to notice, but it was impossible not to. "You've grown up," she said suddenly, looking at me over the rim of her glass. Her tone was casual, but the pause after lingered like an unfinished thought. I laughed awkwardly, taking a sip too quickly, the wine burning down my throat. "Yeah, well, it happens." Her eyes stayed on me longer than they should have. Not harsh, not even questioning, just present, like she was studying the edges of a photograph she hadn't looked at in years. I shifted in my seat, unsure if I should say something or let the silence keep stretching. The kitchen was warm, the kind of warmth that seeps into your skin after a while. Outside, rain tapped against the window, steady and rhythmic, almost daring me to break the stillness between us. "You still nervous around me?" she asked softly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" She set her glass down with a faint clink, her gaze flicking to my hand gripping the stem of mine too tightly. "You used to avoid me when you were a teenager. Always kept your head down. Never looked me in the eye." I wanted to deny it, but she wasn't wrong. Back then, she intimidated me without meaning to. Not because of anything she did, but because she seemed untouchable. Beautiful in this effortless, unstudied way. Like she didn't even notice the way rooms shifted around her. I guess I didn't know what to say, I admitted. My voice came out lower than I expected. Her lips curved into something faint, almost wistful. "You still don't." That silence again. My chest tightened. Not in panic, but in that strange way where you're aware of every detail at once. The creak of the chair, the faint hum of the fridge, the sound of her breathing across the table. Her fingers tapped against the wood once, twice, before she leaned back, her sweater falling off her shoulder a little more. She didn't fix it. The air between us wasn't just quiet anymore. It was charged, and I couldn't stop staring at her, even when I knew I should. She noticed. Of course she did. Instead of pulling away, she reached for the bottle and refilled my glass, slower this time, like she was daring me not to look away. Her wrist brushed the back of my hand, and I didn't move. "Tell me," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "What's different now?" I opened my mouth, and the sharp buzz of my phone on the table cut through the moment. Both of us froze, staring at the screen as it lit up with a name neither of us expected to see. The name flashing across my phone screen didn't matter. I turned it over without answering. But the silence it left behind stretched, shifting the air between us. She noticed. Of course she noticed. "You could have answered," she said quietly, lifting her glass again. It wasn't important. I tried to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me. Too quick, too sharp. Her eyes lingered, like she could see past my words. "You sound like me, 20 years ago." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She leaned back, the chair creaking, her gaze fixed on something beyond the rain-streaked window. Ignoring calls, pretending nothing outside these walls matters. A pause. That's how I spent most of my marriage. I hadn't known she was divorced. My mom never mentioned it. Or maybe she had, and I was too young to care at the time. I didn't realize. It's fine. She cut me off gently, like she didn't want pity. It was years ago. He left, And honestly, I don't blame him. I was too focused on surviving, raising a kid alone, figuring out who I was when I'd already spent half my life being who someone else wanted. Her words hung heavy in the warm kitchen. I wanted to say something, but all I could do was watch the way her fingers curled around the stem of her glass, the faint tremor in them before she steadied. And now, I asked before I could stop myself. Now she looked at me. Direct. Too direct. Now I'm 46, and I still haven't figured it out. The way she said it, it wasn't self-pity. It was sharper, almost defiant, like daring me to challenge her. I swallowed hard. Maybe you don't have to have it all figured out. Her lips twitched at that, not quite a smile. Spoken like someone who's never had to choose between being happy and being appropriate. The word stung more than I expected. Appropriate. Like it had been sitting in the corner of the room the whole time, waiting for her to name it. The age gap. The unspoken lines people would draw if they saw us sitting here like this. I'm not a kid, I said a little too fast. She tilted her head, studying me again with that calm patience that made me restless. I know, but it doesn't make it simpler. I wanted to argue, but I didn't. Because she was right, it wasn't simple. She'd known me since I was young. She was tied to my family in ways that made this dangerous, maybe even wrong. And yet, sitting there, I couldn't stop thinking about how close her hand was to mine on the table. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping harder against the glass, filling the quiet space between us. I caught her looking again, just a flicker, her eyes dropping to my hand before darting away. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then, without thinking, I shifted slightly closer, enough that my fingers brushed hers on the table. Not deliberate, not an outright move, just a ghost of contact that lasted only a second, but she didn't pull away. Her fingers stayed under mine just long enough to feel real. Then she moved, pulling back like nothing had happened. But the ghost of that touch burned hotter than the wine in my throat. I leaned back, pretending to study the rain. My chest felt too tight. Every word I could have said sat heavy on my tongue, but none of them felt safe. You should be careful, she said at last, voice low. Careful of what? Her pause said more than her words. Of confusing things. I almost laughed. And what exactly is confusing here? Her gaze snapped to mine, sharp, defensive, but she didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence between us cracked open, and for one reckless second, I thought she might actually let it break. The way she shifted closer, the way her breath hitched, the way her eyes fell to my mouth. The door creaked open. Mom! A girl's voice carried from the hall. Light, casual, like she didn't know she'd just lit a match inside a room full of gasoline. My heart slammed against my ribs. Her daughter. She straightened so quickly her chair scraped the floor. In the kitchen, she called, steady but a fraction too sharp. I shoved my glass aside, suddenly aware of how intimate the scene must look. The candles, the wine, the quiet closeness. Her daughter, barely younger than me, appeared in the doorway, pulling earbuds from her ears, wet hair clinging to her hoodie. You're still up? It's late. Couldn't sleep, she said smoothly, slipping into the version of herself that belonged to everyone else. We were just catching up. Her eyes flicked to me for half a second. I forced a smile that felt weak, too careful. Hey, her daughter grinned. Didn't know you two were drinking buddies now. The joke was innocent, but my stomach flipped. I saw the way my aunt's shoulders tightened, the faint line that formed at the corner of her mouth. Just a glass, she replied quickly. Don't you have class in the morning? Her daughter rolled her eyes. Yeah. Don't stay up too late. She disappeared down the hall, a bedroom door shutting behind her a moment later. The silence she left behind was deafening. I looked back at her. She wouldn't meet my eyes now, her focus locked on the empty glass in front of her. Her hands were clasped too tightly, knuckles white. That was close, I said quietly. Her lips parted like she wanted to respond, but instead she stood, gathering the glasses, moving them to the sink. This can't happen. The words cut, but her voice trembled in a way that made me wonder if she believed them herself. I stood too, caught between stepping forward and backing away. Then why? Why didn't you pull away earlier? She froze, her back to me, shoulders rising with a shaky breath. For a moment, I thought she'd turn, that she'd admit what neither of us had said aloud. Instead, she whispered so softly I almost missed it, because I didn't want to, and then the crash of thunder outside rattled the windows, covering the silence that followed. The storm outside had settled into a heavy rhythm, rain slapping the glass like it wanted in. Inside, the kitchen felt smaller than ever. She hadn't turned back since whispering those words. Because I didn't want to. I couldn't let it go. You don't mean that, I said, my voice too low, too sharp. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't move. You should go home. You're not answering me. I don't need to. Yes, you do. I stepped forward before I could stop myself, the space between us shrinking to nothing. My voice cracked when I added, do you think this is just me? That I haven't thought about it every time you look at me like that? Her hands gripped the edge of the counter so tightly I could see the tension in her arms. Finally, she spun around. Her eyes weren't calm anymore. They burned. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me. My breath was shaky. Tell me I'm imagining it. She opened her mouth, then shut it again, biting down on her lip hard enough to leave a mark. The silence said more than any denial ever could. And then it cracked, her voice breaking like the storm outside. Do you have any idea what would happen if people found out? Your mother, my daughter, everyone would. I don't care. I cut in too loud, too fast. My chest hurt from the force of it. I don't care what anyone thinks. She flinched, not from my words, but from how much they sounded like the things she'd been trying not to admit. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, afraid, longing all at once. You're too young to ruin your life over me. I'm not ruining anything, I whispered. I'm choosing. The air between us went still, heavy, dangerous. For the first time, she didn't look away. She didn't move either. She just stood there, her breath shallow, her cardigan slipping further down her shoulder. I reached out, trembling, my fingers hovering just shy of touching her arm. The electricity of almost contact made my pulse slam in my throat. She didn't step back. She didn't stop me. Her voice was barely audible, cracked open and raw. You don't know what you're asking for. Yes, I do, I said. My hand brushed her skin, light, tentative, her warmth like fire under my palm. She gasped, the sound tearing something open between us. Her eyes dropped to my mouth and mine to hers. The world outside blurred, thunder rumbling low like it was holding its breath with us. We leaned in, slow, inevitable, and then a sharp knock at the front door shattered everything. The knock at the door didn't stop. 3 more, harder this time. She jerked away from me, almost stumbling as she pulled her cardigan tight around her. Her breath was uneven. Stay here, she whispered, voice breaking. I wanted to follow, to demand she not leave me suspended in the wreckage of what almost happened. But I stayed rooted, my pulse hammering. Through the hall, I heard her open the door, heard a voice I knew too well. My mother. The sound dropped like a stone in my chest. Surprise. My mom's voice carried through the house, warm but tired. Thought I'd stop on my way home. I tried calling, but you didn't pick up. I looked down at my phone on the table, the missed call glowing back at me like a wound. You shouldn't have come in this weather, my aunt said, steadier now, slipping into the version of herself everyone else knew. Polished. Controlled. You'll catch cold. They moved into the living room. I couldn't see them from the kitchen, but every word felt like a spotlight bearing down on me. My mother laughed softly. You always worry too much. Where's? She paused. The silence after it made my stomach clench. Is someone here? I froze. My aunt hesitated too long. Just him, she finally said. Her tone, too careful, too measured, made it sound like I was a stranger, not family, not the boy who'd been her kitchen an inch from kissing her. Something in me cracked. I stepped out, forcing a smile. Hey, Mom. Her face lit up, surprised but pleased. What are you doing here? You didn't tell me. I shrugged, fumbling. Just catching up. The words tasted like ash. Her eyes softened, then flicked between the two of us. Well, I'm glad. You don't visit enough. She sat down, chatting easily, oblivious to the storm thrumming in the air. My aunt kept her mask in place, smiling, nodding, responding at all the right beats, but she never once looked at me. Not once. And that silence cut deeper than anything else could. When my mom finally stood to leave, hugging us both, I followed her to the door. The rain had slowed, the air smelling of wet earth. You should come by for dinner tomorrow, she said, squeezing my shoulder. It's been too long. I nodded automatically, my throat too tight to answer. When the door shut behind her, the house went still again. I turned to face her. She leaned against the wall, her eyes closed, shoulders trembling like she'd been holding her breath for hours. You lied, I said quietly. Her eyes opened, and the guilt in them nearly undid me. You made it sound like I was nothing. Her lips parted, but no words came. Only a whisper, raw and broken. I had to. Her whisper hung in the air. I had to. I stared at her, my chest rising and falling too fast, the storm inside me louder than the one that had already passed outside. No, you didn't, I said, my voice unsteady. You didn't have to make me invisible. Her jaw tightened. You don't understand, then help me. I cut in, stepping forward. Help me understand. Because I sat in that kitchen thinking maybe, just maybe, you wanted this too. And then the second she showed up, you erased me. Her eyes shone, glassy under the dim light. Don't you see? That's the only way I can keep you safe. The only way to keep everything from collapsing. I shook my head, bitter laughter slipping out. Safe from what? From feeling something real for once? From admitting it? Her breath caught. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. I moved closer, close enough to see the way her hands trembled at her sides. Tell me you don't feel it. Look me in the eye and say it. Her silence was deafening. I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Her fingers clung to mine like she'd been holding back for too long. Her voice broke. You're too young to know what this costs. Then let me decide if it's worth it. For the first time, the wall between us cracked completely. She leaned in, forehead resting against mine, her breath shaky and uneven. I closed my eyes, everything in me screaming not to move, not to ruin this fragile, impossible moment. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. You won't. We stayed like that, still and breaking all at once. My hands trembled against her arms, hers tangled in the fabric of my shirt like she was terrified I'd disappear. And then she kissed me. It wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was desperate. Years of silence and regret colliding in one messy, breathless moment. My world tilted, everything else vanishing until there was only her. When she finally pulled back, her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came. Just that look, raw and unguarded, like she'd show me a piece of herself no one else had ever seen. I pressed my forehead to hers again. So what now? Her eyes closed, a tear slipping free. I don't know. The truth of it hit harder than anything else. There were no promises, no neat endings, no easy path. Only the fact that she hadn't pushed me away and maybe never would again. We stood there, two people suspended in a choice we couldn't unmake, the silence between us heavy, with everything still unsaid. Outside, the storm was gone, but inside, I knew it had only just begun. We didn't speak for a long time after. Just stood there, pressed too close, holding on like the world might split if either of us let go. Eventually, she stepped back, wiping her cheek quickly, as though embarrassed by the tear I'd already seen. This isn't simple, she said quietly. I know, I whispered, but nothing real ever is. The house felt too still, like it was listening. Every creak of the floor, every breath between us seemed louder than the rain outside had been. She poured herself water, set the glass down untouched. I've built my life around rules, around what people think I should be. A mother, a friend, someone who never strays from the lines. She looked at me then, tired but alive in a way I hadn't seen before. And now I don't know if I can keep doing that. I wanted to reach for her again, but I didn't. Not yet. Then don't. Her laugh came out small, broken, but real. You make it sound so easy. It doesn't have to be easy, I said. It just has to be worth it. She studied me, and for the first time that night, there wasn't fear in her eyes, just quiet resolve. You've changed, she murmured. Maybe, I admitted, or maybe I just finally said the things I was too scared of before. Her hand brushed mine again on the counter, deliberate this time. And when her fingers stayed, I knew it wasn't an accident. We didn't plan what would come next. No promises. No dramatic declarations. Just a shared understanding. Something fragile, dangerous, but ours. When I left that night, the rain had stopped, the street shining under the glow of streetlights. I turned back once, saw her framed in the doorway. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was just there, watching me the way I'd always watched her. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Maybe people would never understand. Maybe we'd stumble. Maybe we'd fall apart. But we'd already crossed the line. The question wasn't if this was happening. It was how far we'd let it go. And I couldn't stop wanting to find out. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Backend Index Pointing Right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the next one.